Welcome back to Hannity. Well, the liberal media continues to take shots at President-elect Donald Trump. And like I said, it's only just begun. Last night on MSNBC, one reporter called out his transition process. Take a look.
This is a serious break from tradition about how you take these cabinet positions and how you fill them. You do it behind the scenes. You do it with a lot of serious thought. You do it with a lot of planning. Donald Trump is treating this, calling them finalists, tweeting about them, having them parade in and out of his Bedminster golf resort, also parading in and out of Trump Tower, and talking about keeping people in suspense. He's treating it, so far, like it is one of his reality shows.
Joining us now with reaction is psychology expert, boy do we need her, also radio host Dr. Gina Loudon, syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor Cal Thomas, and reporter for the Daily Caller, Carrie Pickett. Welcome to all of you. Cal, let me begin with you. Do these elites in the media and elsewhere not understand that the more they pile on Donald Trump, the more sympathy they create for him and the more support he receives?
Well, they do, Monica, but you know very well, having worked for Richard Nixon, that bashing the media only gets you so far. Spiro Agnew made that famous speech written by the late William Safire, calling them nattering nabobs of negativism, but that only hardened their resolve. You mentioned something in the previous segment about success. I think success would be the best way to fire back at the press, beginning, as he seems to be indicating he wants to do, with the naming of Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education, who is very, very much pro-school choice, liberating these poor and minority students from their failing government schools. Now, remember, Trump got 7% more of the African-American vote than Romney did, and he is starting to resonate, I think, with the African-American community. That's the way to overcome the press, not just to bash them all the time, trying to convert them, going to the New York Times building, going to have minimal, if any, success. These people will not change their minds about him no matter what happens.
Carrie, I think there was something more interesting going on with Donald Trump's visit to the New York Times building, as much as I love Cal. He had the media come to him, television, and he read them the Riot Act in a very sort of diplomatic way, but they've never seen anything like this before. Then he went to the New York Times building rather than have the Times come to him, which I thought was a very interesting gesture. It was meant to disarm them. Now, I do agree with Cal that that's not going to work with the Times or anybody else on the left, but there is always a method to what he is doing here. So at least he can turn to the American public and say, see, I tried to be magnanimous and gracious. I tried to work with them, and gosh golly, they just wouldn't meet me halfway.
Indeed. And what's fascinating here is that the first move he made was when he brought all those media personalities in. He brought in their executives, and he apparently tore them apart. Now, we weren't supposed to know that, and somehow it got leaked out to the New York Post. We don't know who leaked it, but somebody did. And so the New York Times thought, oh, okay, we're going to get him, and we're going to have him come to us. And the fascinating thing here was that even though, say, for example, with his views on, say, climate change, they said, oh, look at this, he's backpedaling on climate change. He's on our side now. And then all of a sudden it turned out not exactly. Apparently he said, no, I'm open to both sides. And he was able to basically control the conversation. The thing I'm a little concerned about, though, is that he's gotten so used to talking directly to the media through Twitter. When he gets to the White House, that's going to be taken away from him. The NSA is going to make sure of it.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. He's not really one to give up his social media. And to that point, Gina, I'd love your response on this, because Donald Trump has created a whole new model. He's created a new electoral model. He's created a new coalition. He's created a new way of communicating. And like Presidents Nixon and Reagan before him, he has discovered that the most effective way to get his message to the American people is to go over the heads of the elite media and take his message directly to them. And he's got a weapon, as Carrie just mentioned, he's got a weapon that Nixon and Reagan did not have, which is social media. How do you think he's going to manage his critics going forward?
You make such a great point here, Monica, and I'm glad you alluded to this, because I think it's the psychology behind all of this that the media still has not caught on to in their elitist attitude, and it is this: they need him a lot more then he needs them. He proved that when he defeated 16 other capable and competent Republicans. He proved that when he defeated the best that the Democrat Party had to offer. And he proved that when he changed the way media is done by engaging social media, by, letting the people who are presenting this fairly go ahead and present it fairly and do well. If you look, and don't trust me on this, nobody has to, look at the ratings of those who presented both sides fairly. You will see they are soundly defeating those who presented that biased leftist media notion the whole way along. So it's all there for them to see if they just decide to open their eyes.
Well, I'm not sure they ever will, Gina, but hope springs eternal. And I think Donald Trump just relishes keeping everybody off balance. So the next couple of years are going to be very interesting. Guys, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Coming up next, after the uproar over fake news stories on the internet, some in the liberal media are pushing a baseless report that Hillary Clinton may have won the election because voting machines were hacked. Our panel will have reaction next. And later, authorities are ramping up security as nearly 50 million Americans travel for the Thanksgiving holiday. Catherine Herridge will be here with a report. Also, we'll have reaction from Dr. Sebastian Gorka and James Rosen. All that and more as Hannity continues.